return through the customer. We want customers see our product as a good, decent product. So we do not want to send a bad product to them. So management has to make a decision to be customer oriented as well as to be able to boost up their productivity.
This question mainly deals, and we see this every day in corporate world, deals with ethics. So, and managers are involved so many times in cases that pressure comes from the top, and they have to make decision. They have to sometimes sacrifice their ethics. And we see, because if you send the product out to the market for the accurate testing, and product is defective, and if it's a safety product, it could have great consequences for consumer. My personal approach is that I think managers have moral liability and moral obligation to the customer, So my personal approach would be that I won't just listen for sake of my job, say, okay, I'm going to listen to the president, because to keep my job, So many times, as I said, you have to lead by that value that you're trying to instill on others. Others say, well, I don't think, but you have to find a way, but if it comes down to a situation, there are other opportunities. So I would not stay in a company that ethics would be compromised over and over. And this president, by the way, what type of president, we talked about leadership, so what type of president is vascular test, by the way, exam would be in a couple of weeks. And what type of president is this guy? Remember, it was 5 leadership styles. Nice guy, loser, compromiser, taskmaster. So the president, taskmaster, is obvious. He just wants things to be done. He doesn't care about social, so he's a taskmaster.
Directly a loser.
Yeah, could be, Well, we don't know if he's, from this question, I think he's definitely taskmaster. Well, we don't know much about his social, so we don't have enough information to answer if he's have a loser style, but we definitely know that he's a taskmaster because he's authoritative and he wants the task to be done. He could be a loser style of leadership if he doesn't have much of a social skill as well. The main, as we discussed, the main function of leading is deciding, communicating, motivating, selecting people, and developing people. So if I ask you on test, the function of leadership, is 5 functions for leadership. They're pretty straightforward. The key is always deciding, decision. If every day you're making decision, you're looking at that. It's like, now I'm trying to purchase a property. I have to decide, where is a good place for me to purchase, the area. Managers, not only managers, remember a lot of topics in this class is not just for you to be a manager. It involves you, even if you're not a managerial position, to understand. Because we arrive at decision every day. You're making some decision, deciding what classes to take. What did you make a decision to major in master program engineering management? Hopefully next week when the group that presents future, past, present, and future of engineering management, we will have some insight into that question. So decision is a key factor for all of us, not only for managers. And there are many different ways of decision that people make. They do it by spontaneous decision, which is basically intuitive hunch, you get gut instinct, and sometimes people use reason decision making. Decision making topic by itself, again, is a broad topic that requires at least probably a few hours of lecture. Again, here we just talk on the surface of the topic. Hopefully when you do your research assignment, get deeper in some of this topic. Because decision, there are many ways to make the decision. Most of us in our daily life, we make decision based on some of these factors. Reason decision looks at logical analysis to some degree, and you're gonna see a very nice case after that. Looking at fact, evaluating, like you see right now, look at the fact of what is happening with housing market and deciding, I look at the past, housing market was, what is happening now. So I look at some of fact, what some areas. So we all use some of these technique, then you have to have some creative problem solving abilities, and you have to be able to think consistently. And one thing about decision, and I'm guilty of that, stick to the decision and try to, when you make it, then that's it, that's your baby. So and I don't second guess your decision as, oh, why did I go to engineering management, what am I doing now in the middle of it? You made a conscious decision. So good or bad, and I'm guilty of that. It's very hard when we make a decision, we stay with that decision and not regret. Because the regretting of decision, what we call it creates a lot of negative impact upon you and upon people that you work in. Same thing at work. Managers make decisions and then they're not so sure if they made the right decision or wrong decision. And no one knows decisions are right or wrong. So you have to accept the fact that, okay, even this decision is not working very well, I made this decision and I have to live with that decision. Now, who makes decisions? In companies, staff make decisions, sometimes the staff and manager and sometimes managers. Like in classes, sometimes I make some decision for you, sometimes I involve you. I say, okay, as a class, you have an option, what do you think? So personally, decision must be made using different techniques and different methods and again, same thing with decision making, leadership is that you use it, you look at every circumstances and you adopt your method. If one requires you, it's like one class, maybe requires more decision from me than undergraduate, like 100 level classes, probably requires more decision by faculty and less by students, because the students are in their earlier stages of their education and maybe they're not yet developed the skills to participate in. But as you go, classes, graduate level classes, I compromise and I share the decision making with the student, because by now most of graduate students are already adult, they're already gone through the program or they're working, so they have more understanding of the process and they can participate. Same thing with job. If you hire somebody right in the beginning, maybe you got to train them and make. Then as they develop their skill and as you help them develop their skill, you involve them in decision making. Now maybe process of decision making involved to, you look at the problem, you assess, you evaluate the problem, you always have to collect some fact, information about the problem in hand. Then you have to figure out real problem. Sometimes most of us make decisions not knowing the real problem in hand, because you think this might be a problem, but when you evaluate and you gather information, you find out, no, you need to refine and find the real problem. After that, you have to find out some alternative. You have to look at what method you want to use to make that decision. Then select the solution and implement. But this is not an easy process. It's easy to be said, but it's much harder to be done. You go, and I did many times, like I've been looking, I say, oh, I'm going to live in a studio city, then I shift, and so I'm going back to, I don't like to live in Valley, then I'm shifting my decision. So it's very hard to stay focused. If it was easy, then most managers, most of us have had an easy life. But it's very hard to stay focused on decision-making process. Because we make one, and we, after a while, say, oh, did I make this right decision? Then you look at some other alternative. But realistically, this is the process to use for decision making, but not works always like that. This is a very good question. So I don't know. Hopefully, you had a chance to look at this. It's talking about a person in college, been active, now, and it probably applies to me because hopefully you read this. Question talks about a gentleman in a college, been very active now, he's probably graduating, he has 3 candidates. One is, actually it should be Lisa, the Lisa, this is from the author of the textbook, so it's not my PowerPoint, so I'm not guilty of misspelled here. The first person is Lisa. Lisa majored in literature, is sociable, communicative, and have average appearance. But she doesn't hate home cooking. Julie, on the other hand, is majoring in computer engineering, so technical field, so more likely she's more intellect. But look-wise, she's an average look. We always say that maybe very good looking girls won't go to engineering field. So maybe that's the case that they say she's have a